How's it going, Guardian? Shifty here, and today I'm back with a bit of a silly build for the end of the season. This one isn't going to be using any combat mods or artifact mods, so you can use it in next season if you really want to. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you how to get your super fast on a Shadebinder Warlock using only your Rift. Now, if that's intriguing to you, stick around and check out this build. I'm going to go ahead and classify this build as fun to use, but I do want to say that it's not going to be great in endgame content. I know some people don't really like builds that aren't viable in difficult content. However, every once in a while, I like to put builds out there that can be fun in regular activities. Alright, before I get into it, if you end up enjoying the video, make sure to hit that like button, and if you're new to my channel, don't forget to subscribe as well. Alright, so I'm going to start by going over my Shadebinder setup. For my Rift, I have the Healing Rift. Then for my grenade, I have the Duskfield grenade, although I won't be throwing any grenades in this video. Then the two aspects I would recommend are Frost Pulse and Ice Flare bolts. As for fragments, the first two I've chosen aren't all that important, and you can really put whatever you want here. First, I have Whisper of Torment, so I gain grenade energy each time I take damage from targets. Then I have Whisper of Chain, so I have a little bit of damage reduction when I'm near frozen targets. The next two fragments are actually important to this build. Here I have Whisper of Refraction, so defeating slowed or frozen targets grants me class ability energy. Then I have Whisper of Bond, so defeating frozen targets grants me super energy. Now I want to move on and go over any important mods for this build. First of all, I have two dynamo mods slotted in my helmet, and these are void mods, so you will need a void helmet. These mods reduce super cooldown when using your class ability near enemies. The only other important mods are in my bond, and they're the distribution mods. These ones can go in armor of any element. What these do is reduce all ability cooldowns when using your class ability near enemies. The final component to this build is the Vesper of Radius exotic chest armor. This piece is actually quite important for the build. The armor perk here is Planetary Torrent. Rifts release an arc shockwave when cast. Rift energy recharges faster when you are surrounded by enemies. As you can tell, this build relies on being surrounded by enemies and using your Rift while surrounded. One final note here, I do have tier 10 recovery and tier 10 intellect. I would recommend that you get those as high as possible if you're planning to use this. And that's all there is to the components for this build. Now I want to go over how to use the build, then after that I'm going to show you some gameplay of the build in action. Let's get into it. Alright, right off the bat here I'm going to go ahead and use my super, that way you can see how quickly I get my super back from 0 super energy. Alright, so the gist of this build is to use my Rift while surrounded by enemies. Frost Pulse is going to freeze those enemies, and then Vesper of Radius is going to kill them with the shockwave. Whisper of Refraction and Whisper of Bonds will then give me some super and class ability energy. You may also notice I get my Rift back faster when surrounded by enemies. That's because of Vesper of Radius. The perk on that makes your Rift recharge much faster while surrounded by enemies. In addition to that, I have the distribution mod, which gives me energy to all of my abilities when I use my class ability around enemies, and Dynamo will give me super energy when I use my class ability around enemies as well. So as you can see, this build is centered around using the Rift while surrounded by enemies. Now that I've gone over the basics of the build, I'm going to show you a full run of a Lost Sector while using the build. And there's the build in action during an easy activity like a Lost Sector. As you can see, I didn't use a single weapon or ability outside of my Rift or Super. As you can see, this build isn't going to be great in Grandmaster or other difficult content, but if you want to just mess around in some easy activities, I definitely think it's fun to use. Anyway, with that said, if you enjoyed the video, make sure to like and subscribe. I just want to thank you for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one.